The broadcast flickered into life across the galaxy, not an invitation, not diplomacy, but a declaration wrapped in disdain. At the center stood General Vortak of the Tsar Dominion, a reptilian titan draped in ceremonial armor that glinted under synthetic starlight. He didn't smile. Tsar didn't do that. But there was satisfaction in his posture, in the way he allowed silence to stretch, knowing that the weight of it would only deepen the sting of what followed. "Humans," he said, voice sharp and smooth like a knife drawn slowly. "You disappoint." A hushed stir rippled across the interstellar network. Billions watched. Earth was silent. "You run," he continued. "You scatter. You cry out for mercy. This is what your species offers the stars. Fear disguised as strategy. Flight passed off as preservation." He paused, letting his words settle like ash on flame-scorched ground. "We have conquered 17 of your colonies without resistance worthy of note. Your leaders capitulate before the first shell lands. Your ships withdraw before the first volley returns. You call it survival. I call it cowardice." The Tsar were not known for subtlety. They believed in numbers, in momentum, in the inevitability of overwhelming force. And the Dominion had rolled across half the Perseid arm with little more than brute discipline and sheer mass. Their victories weren't elegant, they were absolute. But Earth lingered. Not defiant. Not negotiating. Just waiting. "You cling to myths," Vortak said, his tone edged with mockery now. "Stories of heroes. Of singular victories. As if one can stand against legions. As if resolve alone can stop orbital bombardment." He gestured, and a series of holograms appeared behind him. Human cities in flames, orbital stations torn in half, civilian fleets drifting, powerless and silent. "This is your legacy. Loss. Flight. Surrender." The message was less about war and more about shaping perception. Vortak knew the audience extended far beyond humanity. Neutral species. Trade partners. Future enemies. Fear was a currency, and he was minting it live. "So I offer you a challenge," he said, voice lowering. "Not because I expect a real answer, but because I wish to hear the sound of your silence again. Send your greatest. Your bravest. Send one, if you must, a symbol of this human spirit you whisper about when your world burns." He leaned forward. "Let us demonstrate, one final time, how little that spirit weighs against steel." With a wave, the transmission cut. Across the stars, the message spread like a plague. Every planet where humans held a presence replayed it. Analysts broke it down. Admirals ignored it. Politicians recoiled. And the people? The people listened. Some with anger. Some with fear. But most with that quiet stillness unique to a species that has seen the abyss more than once and keeps showing up anyway. The military response was strategic silence. No counter-transmission. No rebuttal. No escalation. Whispers filled the vacuum. That Earth had nothing left. That their elites were already negotiating terms of survival. That maybe, finally, the human myth had shattered. But myths don't break. They evolve. In a sealed briefing room beneath Geneva's crust, no media present, no advisors allowed, the Supreme Marshal reviewed the feed one last time. She did not blink. Did not speak. She simply tapped a line on a black tablet and said, "Send him." No announcements. No parades. No committee debate. Just a silent authorization and a digital signature burned into a classified log. Somewhere in a dark hangar beyond Mars' orbit, a drop pod was powered up. Inside it, a name was etched on a titanium plate, not for glory, not for remembrance, but because there had to be a record of who answered the call. Vortak's speech wasn't the first time humanity had been mocked. Empires always mistook patience for fear. They always misjudged how quiet strength could be. The Tsar had numbers, ships, worlds. But they had already made their mistake, they asked for proof. And they were going to get it. The pod sat dormant, cocooned in silence. No cheers, no ceremony. Just a short command, executed without delay. The individual selected did not ask why. He read the order once, closed the file, and began. Movements precise, methodical. He wasn't rushed. He'd done this before. Suit inspection. Ammo check. 2 knives. 1 sidearm. 1 rifle, stripped and reassembled twice. All standard. No modifications. No insignia. No name badge. He wasn't famous. No interviews, no medals, no public record of his actions. Those who knew him didn't speak. Those who spoke of him had never seen him. Inside the preparation chamber, the walls hummed with quiet electricity. The silence wasn't empty, it was trained. Every action belonged to someone who understood what was coming, and accepted it without flinch or drama. He didn't expect to return. That wasn't part of the calculation. He ran final diagnostics. Oxygen steady. Armor sync optimal. Neural interface calibrated. He stood still as it sealed shut, surrounding him with the hard shell of consequence. A single technician oversaw the launch sequence. She didn't salute. She only asked, "Anything else?" He shook his head. She nodded once. Clear skies. That was enough. The pod launched in complete radio silence, bypassing standard patrol vectors. No fleet escort. No decoys. Just raw velocity and precise timing. 1 signal ping confirmed his vector. Then nothing. He was gone, and by design, forgotten. Inside the pod, he remained motionless, eyes open, reviewing terrain scans, heat maps, enemy patrol routes. No AI guidance. No backup. Every choice from landing to objective would be his alone. He had requested it that way. Simplicity sharpened focus. The target was a Tsar Forward Command fortress on Gale 4, high gravity, dense atmosphere, heavily guarded. After the broadcast, the general had relocated there to reinforce the message. A show of dominance. Hubris always offered an opening. As the planet neared, he narrowed his breathing. Pulse dropped to baseline. Mind cleared. He wasn't preparing for glory. He was preparing for truth, to make the general understand the error of believing humanity broke when pressed. No theatrics. No moral speech. This wasn't about vengeance or symbolism. This was a mission. It had rules. And he had mastered them all. He landed hard, no thrusters, just speed and armor integrity. A crater formed. He emerged within seconds, scanning without hesitation, already moving. The surrounding patrol was neutralized before it registered his presence. No wasted rounds. No alerts triggered. As he advanced, Tsar communications lit up. Not full alert, just murmurs of a breach. They assumed sabotage. A probe. A test. That misunderstanding was crucial. It bought him minutes. That's all he ever needed. Each engagement was short, brutal, silent. His rifle spoke only when necessary. His knives filled the rest. Fear spread faster than alarms. Shadows began to shift. Soldiers spoke of a ghost. Not in fear. In confusion. There was no declaration. No name. The alien command began to scramble, not because they understood the threat, but because they didn't. That kind of uncertainty gnaws deeper than panic. Tsar doctrine didn't account for one. Their models didn't simulate this, a single variable, unpredictable, lethal, and silent. He moved through the complex like erosion, not fast, but inevitable. Every checkpoint passed reduced the gap. Every breath brought him closer. His suit logged nothing. He hadn't spoken since launch. The general received fragmented reports. Isolated losses. Skirmishes. Then silence. When his tactical officer suggested evacuation, Vortak laughed. One human does not warrant retreat. That arrogance sealed the next phase. The soldier bypassed the main corridor. He climbed, crawled, dropped. Navigated vents, maintenance tunnels, structural blind spots. Tsar architecture was proud, symmetrical, grand. He used it against them. Predictable patterns made predictable failure. He paused once, not to rest but to listen. Movement ahead. 2 guards. He approached from below, using gravity against their stance. 2 strikes. 1 breath. Continued forward. No alarms now. Just dread spreading without explanation. This wasn't an invasion. This was exposure, the painful realization that the foundation of Tsar superiority had a crack. And inside it, one human had crawled through. He reached the inner ring without casualty to himself. Minor damage logged. Pain acknowledged, dismissed. He applied a sealant to his leg and kept moving. There was no time to indulge discomfort. He finally approached the reinforced chamber beneath the command core. The door was sealed. Reinforced. Designed to withstand siege. He didn't try to hack it. He planted a shaped charge, took cover, waited, and advanced as the smoke cleared. One last door remained. Beyond it, the target. He had not yet spoken a word. The blast shook the inner compound. Dust and pressure rippled through the fortified hallway. By the time the emergency bulkheads began to slide into place, he was already past them. Timing, precision, decisiveness, every move optimized. He didn't hesitate because he didn't entertain alternatives. This wasn't ambition. It was execution. The interior layout was grid-based, efficient but predictable. 2 corridors, 4 junctions, 10 guards. None made it past the second breath. The rifle barked once. Then twice. Reload. Move. Sweep. Clear. Repeat. Motion sensors triggered alerts, but by then, the pattern broke. The Tsar weren't dealing with an intruder, they were reacting to a force they didn't understand. Rooms were secured, then silenced. Command pathways rerouted. Still, he advanced. With each step, their structure unraveled. He disabled surveillance nodes as he passed, using short-burst EMP spikes, burning blind spots into their network. Tsar Tech relied on central synchronization. He fractured that spine in under 5 minutes. Information stopped flowing. Units stopped coordinating. Fear took root. Through the walls, he heard them shifting, squads grouping, separating, second-guessing every shadow. He didn't need to see them. He only needed their confusion. It gave him space, seconds at a time. Enough. He avoided open confrontation. Not weakness, just efficiency. He was trained to break systems, not waste time posturing. In every engagement, he reduced resistance with minimum exposure. Single shots. Clean breaches. Close quarters only when necessary. No unnecessary kills. No words. The Tsar elite responded by forming a containment perimeter. Standard protocol: isolate, compress, overwhelm. But they underestimated how fast he moved and how fluid his decisions were. While they funneled into the east corridor, he looped left, dropped through an access hatch, and emerged behind their rear flank. The first they knew of his presence was when the last soldier and their unit collapsed. Then another. The formation crumbled inward, too slow to adapt. He didn't pause to savor it. He moved through the gap like water through cracked stone. Their internal communications became erratic. Reports overlapped. No visual confirmation. No consistent location. Just fragments. He's here, unknown hostile, requesting backup. Before the channels cut. He advanced into the core wing. Security escalated. Auto turrets activated. He ducked beneath the first volley, dropped a suppression charge, and let it burn out the sensors. One turret turned on another. A cascade of targeting confusion followed. They didn't adapt. He didn't stop. A pair of heavy guards stood at the central vault. Fully armored. Synchronized movement. No opening. He didn't engage directly. Instead, he cracked a coolant line nearby, flooding the space with vapor. Reduced visibility favored him. One flash pulse. A misstep. He stepped forward and ended it. The vault's outer door presented a challenge. Code locked, biometrically gated. He attached a signal worm, not to break in, but to scramble the readouts, trick it into emergency override. He used their own safety protocol to force access. No brute force needed. Just understanding. Inside, he found a control room, not the final objective, but close. He entered, scanned, and erased the remaining operational commands. Lights dimmed. Gravity pulsed. Systems faltered. The station began to feel vulnerable. That was intentional. He rerouted a pressure spike into an outer corridor, forcing a full evacuation of the remaining squad posted in the north wing. He slipped through their exit route undetected, bypassing 3 layers of defense by anticipating panic. He reached the last stairwell, leading directly to the upper chamber where the general held position. By now, the Tsar knew he was coming. But knowing and preparing weren't the same. As he ascended, one guard rushed the corner too early. The soldier grabbed his rifle mid-barrel, turned the momentum, and drove it back into the alien's chest. No pause. No error. He advanced again. The upper security node jammed on approach. He expected that. He placed the thermal spike at the hinge, let it cut through the alloy, then kicked the door free. 2 Tsar officers inside froze. He didn't wait for reaction. 2 shots. Immediate silence. 1 floor remained. Every system was falling apart. Reports were no longer tactical, just desperate. The general demanded real-time updates, but no one could provide details. All anyone knew was that someone was moving with precision and without mercy. He reached the elevator shaft but climbed manually. Fast, quiet, and deliberate. On the final ledge, he paused, adjusted his grip, and rose. He wasn't there to send a message. He was there to end one. The last hatch sealed behind him with a mechanical thud. He was inside. No more corridors, no more interference. The room was large, circular, metallic, and quiet. A command platform rose at the far end, flanked by embedded consoles and data pillars humming with residual power. General Vortak stood waiting, motionless. His armor was ceremonial but real, a hybrid of status and functionality, layered in dark alloys. His eyes met the soldiers without surprise. If anything, he looked disappointed. "So this is it," Vortak said, voice low but calm. "No army. No declaration. No surrender." The soldier said nothing. Vortak descended 2 steps, hand resting on his gauntlet's control ring. "I hoped for a challenge. I wanted to see what your species clings to when the illusions fade." Still no response. "I watched your colonies collapse. I saw your leaders compromise. You retreat, you adapt, but you never resist. Until now." "And for what?" He gestured to the dead silence around them. "To prove something to a dying audience?" The soldier advanced, slow and steady, every footstep measured. Vortak's tone sharpened. "One man is not a war." He reached for a pulse blade mounted to his side. The weapon activated with a dull shimmer, edges vibrating at lethal frequency. "But perhaps one death can end a myth." The soldier moved faster now, closing the gap. Vortak struck first, blade aimed at the chest, but the human twisted, deflecting with minimal effort. The counter came swift, elbow to jaw, knee to side, weapon knocked wide. Vortak stumbled, regained footing, adjusted. "You are skilled. But it changes nothing." The soldier advanced again. No flourish. No hesitation. Just a flurry of controlled strikes, shoulder, ribs, arm. The general blocked 2, absorbed 1, missed the 4th. Blood hit the floor. He roared, slammed his gauntlet into the ground, activating a defensive shockwave. The soldier was thrown back a step but didn't fall. He reset his stance, recalibrated, and came forward again without pause. Vortak attacked with brute force, drawing on his size, his armor, his anger. The human ignored the strength advantage, focusing on rhythm, angle, timing. Every movement stripped away assumption. Every second tilted the balance. A strike broke the general's left guard. Another cut opened his shoulder. The pulse blade dropped from his grip, sputtering out on impact. He went for a backup sidearm, too slow. The soldier closed the space, drove a fist into the joint seam of Vortak's armor, and forced him down. Breathing heavy, the general looked up, not with fear, but with realization. "You weren't sent to prove humanity's strength," he said quietly. "You were sent to remind us of our limits." The soldier didn't answer. He pulled his sidearm, calibrated to Tsar physiology, and held it to Vortak's chest. There was no tension. No hesitation. "You think this will change anything?" the general asked. "You kill me, and another takes my place. Your species still burns." Finally, the soldier spoke. One word. "No." The shot landed clean, precise. The general's body slumped, systems shutting down with a soft whine. No theatrics. No extended agony. The silence returned. The soldier stepped back, scanned the room once, then accessed the command node. He triggered a broadcast lockout and began a localized purge. Nothing critical, just enough to ensure no false narratives survived. He didn't leave a message. He didn't need to. By the time the rest of the base realized the general was gone, he had already disappeared from their sensors. No trace. No path to follow. Only the undeniable evidence of what had occurred. The Tsar would search for meaning. They would try to understand how one human had dismantled their strongest position without aid. They would question their intelligence, their training, their doctrine. They would rewrite protocols and reinforce structures. But it wouldn't matter. What they feared most wasn't the soldier's ability. It was his purpose, quiet, unwavering, absolute. He hadn't come to negotiate or threaten or inspire. He had come to end the lie that humans wouldn't fight back. And he had done it without a speech, without a banner, without anyone watching. Just one man. And that was enough. The broadcast never came. No declaration of victory, no footage, no grand statement. The galaxy waited, expecting retaliation, or at least a message. None arrived. What filtered out instead were rumors, unverified, inconsistent, but persistent. Tsar Command remained quiet for days. Unusual. Their response was typically swift, overwhelming. But this time, sectors under their control received no new orders. Patrols missed check-ins. High-value data channels went silent. Then, the news broke. General Vortak was dead. No official admission, no visuals, just a listless statement buried in a logistical update. Command transition effective immediately. That was it. But everyone saw it for what it was. Humanity didn't comment. No diplomats stepped forward. No analysts were made available. Earth issued no statement, held no press conference. The silence wasn't weakness. It was calculated indifference. They had nothing to explain. Everyone who needed to understand already did. In neutral territories, station monitors replayed the last Tsar transmission on loop. The one where Vortak mocked the idea of human defiance. Traitors, mercenaries, even rival factions played it not to laugh, but to remember the moment arrogance turned to consequence. Something had shifted, and no one wanted to miss the meaning. Tsar military presence tightened. More checkpoints. Increased surveillance. But the fear wasn't of fleets or fleets, it was of what might come next, hidden in the quiet. They knew now that if provoked, humans wouldn't retaliate in force. They'd send something worse, precision. 1. That word carried weight now. Not in number, but in intent. Back on Earth, files were archived. Reports sealed. A single terminal in a deep-level command room logged the mission as complete. Under Operator, no name was listed. Only a code with restricted access clearance. The file closed. Never reopened. Somewhere, a soldier walked off an unmarked transport. No fanfare. No recognition. He returned the weapon, stowed the gear, and left through an unmonitored corridor. No one stopped him. No one needed to. He had done what was required. That was enough. In the following weeks, Tsar movements changed. They consolidated. They avoided direct confrontation. Colonies once targeted for subjugation were suddenly ignored. Human settlements noted a drop in harassment, not because treaties were signed, but because the risk had become unpredictable. The cost of certainty had grown too high. Stories emerged, Different versions, none official. Some claimed the soldier was augmented. Others insisted he was never born, just trained. A ghost. A construct. A weapon wrapped in flesh. No one could confirm anything. Which made it worse. Because fear thrives where facts can't reach. A small memorial was updated at the edge of a base once used for deep deployment. One new line etched into the steel. He answered when silence was loudest. No ceremony accompanied it. No names listed. Just that one line. Across distant outposts, young officers began studying old human doctrines again, ones previously dismissed as too focused on individual will. New recruits asked different questions in training sessions. Commanders reevaluated assumptions they hadn't questioned in decades. It wasn't about rewriting strategy. It was about re-understanding humanity. They didn't seek domination. They didn't flood systems with brute force. But they remembered. They adapted. And when pressed, they responded with something no algorithm could quantify: resolve. Vortak had been right about one thing. Myths mattered. Not because they distorted truth, but because they carried it forward. His death didn't make humanity strong. It reminded the galaxy they had never been weak. The fear he tried to manufacture had backfired. What lingered wasn't the memory of a failed insult, but the echo of the answer. No one knew who the soldier was. That was intentional. If they had, they might have believed he was unique. Easier that way. Safer. But by leaving him unnamed, unseen, uncelebrated, humanity sent a different message. There could be another. That was the real warning. No empire feared armies. They feared the moment a myth proved itself real. They feared learning that it didn't take a fleet. It didn't take a planet. Just one. No words. No signature. Just results. And long after the general's broadcast faded from record, the final line remained, unspoken but understood by all who had watched. "You humans are cowards." The reply never aired. It didn't have to.